Clark County Today is presented by Cano Real Estate. Hire an agent, get a team. Learn more by visiting CanoRealEstate.com.
Happy Friday, everyone. A couple hundred people marched this afternoon from Esther Short Park in downtown Vancouver onto I-5 and across the Interstate Bridge, shutting down traffic for over an hour. Holding Black Lives Matter signs and chanting, the group stopped around the middle of the bridge and took a knee for a minute in honor of George Floyd, who died in police custody late last month, sparking off weeks of unrest. Today's protest also marked Juneteenth, the celebration of the emancipation of slaves in 1865. Earlier today, a much more quiet and isolated protest was happening on the roads between Skyview High School and the Clark County Courthouse. Our own Jacob Granneman caught up with local businessman Eddie Odoms on his 18-mile walk.
I was born in Portland, raised Portland, Vancouver, so born and raised in the area. This is my opportunity today to show those who are out there, the youngsters. I see them out there protesting and marching and doing their thing, and I don't do well around crowds. PTSD, right. So it's one of those things where I could do my part here today on a one-man protest to the courthouse and down and back, nine miles each way. I don't know, for me it's simple, but for the world it seems really difficult. But when you're listening to someone talk, everybody always wants to listen to respond. They want to have a rebuttal right away instead of listening to understand. I think that's what we're missing. And then of course the education, but the education comes with listening. And I may have had some experiences with some police officers that weren't so positive when I hadn't done anything. But I have a best friend who lives in Camas. He's a police officer. And I trust that man with my life. You know, so it's just education. Like Juneteenth. Who heard of it? Did you learn about it in school? Black people know, and they're like, well, we didn't get independence when you got it. You know, so it's just listening. What do you lose by letting us have something? Mentor kids. It starts at the home and in the schools, definitely. Mentor.
In other news, the investigation into the April 28th officer-involved shooting of William Abe is being transferred out of Clark County. Prosecutors in Thurston County will now review whether 3 Vancouver Police Department officers acted lawfully when they shot and killed the 50-year-old during an incident in West Vancouver. Clark County Prosecutor Tony Golick told Oregon Public Broadcasting that he had already intended to send the review to another county before civil rights groups in Vancouver wrote a letter expressing a lack of confidence as to whether or not Clark County officials could review the case impartially. Golick said it's common practice for reviews to be outsourced when there are concerns over conflicts of interest. There were 4 officer-involved shootings in Clark County in 2019. However, Golick said he also supported changing policies so local prosecutors aren't reviewing those investigations in their own communities. The state attorney general can also review cases. Meanwhile, Vancouver police today released a review of their use of force policy done by the Police Executive Research Forum, or PERF. The review was requested following the series of officer-involved shootings early last year. Now, the PERF report includes a list of 84 recommendations which will serve as a roadmap to reform the VPD's culture, policies, and practices around use of force. Now, 10 of those recommendations were identified for immediate action, including prohibiting any type of neck restraint and the implementation of the critical decision-making model throughout the agency. The department will also convene a community task force on policing to serve as a forum to provide community input and ensure transparency and accountability. The task force will also review and advise on establishing a body-worn camera program for VPD in time for Vancouver City Council to consider as part of the 2021-2022 biennial budget this fall. The city has already begun inviting community members and organizations to join the task force. A copy of the full report is available on the City of Vancouver's website. In COVID-19 news, Clark County saw 14 more new cases today. That means since last Friday, we've seen 55 new cases with a corresponding rise in hospitalizations. As of today, 12 people are hospitalized in Clark County with a confirmed case. Still, there have been no new reported deaths since June 5th. According to Clark County Public Health, despite the rise in cases, the county is still on track to move into phase 3 of reopening as soon as the end of next week. Now, one thing we haven't talked much about here is the demographic breakdown of this outbreak. At the Board of Public Health meeting this week, Dr. Alan Melnick, the county's public health officer, talked about some of the interesting numbers. For instance, over 31% of the COVID-19 cases here in Clark County have been Hispanic or Latino communities, though almost none of them have died because they're overwhelmingly younger. The Firestone Pacific Foods outbreak, which impacted 132 people, was largely a Hispanic or Latino population and mostly younger. They're also more likely to lack insurance or time off of work and could feel more pressure to work even if they don't feel well. To read more about the demographic breakdown of the COVID-19 outbreak here in Clark County, check out our story at clarkcountytoday.com. Believe it or not, the 4th of July is just a little more than 2 weeks away, and yes, fireworks will still be going on sale starting June 28th in Clark County. Now, the Fort Vancouver fireworks show was canceled this year due to COVID-19, but home use is still allowed outside the city of Vancouver until July 4th. Clark County Fire Marshal staff will be out enforcing the fireworks laws. The illegal use of fireworks is subject to a $500 fine for first-time offenders. For a list of rules and where you live, check out the story on our website. Now, the county is also urging people to please observe safety rules in regards to COVID-19 if you're planning to visit a fireworks stand or celebrate with friends. Washington Governor Jay Inslee's office has not responded to a letter sent by Clark County councilors this week regarding allegations the state is withholding CARES Act funding meant for local governments, though they did send media outlets a statement, such as ours, that the distribution was equitable. The state, though, was in charge of distributing the federal stimulus money to any county or city of fewer than 500,000 people. Now, Treasury Department guidelines say the funding should have been distributed on the same basis as it was for larger cities and counties, but that would have amounted to more than $88 million for Clark County, which received only $27 million. Now, the state has not said what formula they used in distributing the CARES Act money. Well, contact notification is proving to be the key element in Clark County's plan to slow the spread of COVID-19. Earlier this week, we brought you an in-depth piece on the Public Health Institute, the nonprofit working with the county to do notifications and follow-up for people being asked to self-isolate after being exposed to a confirmed case. To hear more about what the people there are doing and exactly what it is that they might ask you if you're confirmed to have been in close contact with a confirmed case, be sure to check out the story linked in our COVID-19 story page at clarkcountytoday.com. All you have to do is click on the icon in the upper left corner of the upper right corner of the main page. Happy Friday, everyone. Well, it's been 7 months since Vancouver mom Tiffany Hill was tragically murdered by her estranged husband in the parking lot of Sarah J. Anderson Elementary School. On Thursday, a group of her friends, family, and supporters marched to that school to celebrate the passing into law of the Tiffany Hill Act, which will now require domestic violence suspects to wear a GPS tracking device that could alert their potential victims if they come near. Clark County Sheriff Chuck Atkins and Washington State Senator Linda Wilson were on hand for the event.
This is just a little way that we can say thank you to you, and I just wish there was so much more we could do, but sometimes this is the best that we can do for you right now. But we just want to thank you.
I've been trying to get this bill through for 3 years. A little bit of my history, why it was so important to me, was because I grew up in a home that where domestic violence was pretty prevalent. Tiffany would have been here when she was here, and he was here before her for like 30 minutes. She would have known he was here because that would have given her a notification on her phone.
Well, this week, Paul Valencia had two Where Are They Now features, both with local high school basketball players linked by a memorable game and the professions they ultimately chose. Here's Paul.
Hey, today I'm going to bring you back first to 2007. It was a district championship girls basketball game, one of the greatest atmospheres in Clark County sports this century. Prairie versus Skyview for the district title, and back then, those two teams brought a huge crowd. Well, it was an even bigger crowd because there was a boys game after their game for a district title, so that crowd came in, and by the end of the girls game in regulation, it was standing room only around the balcony at Heritage High School. Well, the girls game went double overtime. Prairie prevailed. It was Ashley Corral versus Ashley Smith. But those are not the two people I want to talk to you about right now. We're going to be doing Where Are They Now today and tomorrow. One is on a freshman from Prairie, Christine Saunders, who would win a district championship that night. Well, she is now Dr. Christine Saunders. And the other, a senior from Skyview that night, Sarah Click, well, she's now Dr. Sarah Harvey. That's right, two people from one of the greatest games in Clark County sports history are now doctors.
All right, thank you for that, Paul. Great stuff. Let's wrap it up on a high note this week, sort of. A sad time for people at the U.S. Digital Resource Center. The 40 local ministries that called the building home will be saying goodbye to Diane Olmstead, receptionist, outreach coordinator, and an all-around bright spot in the building. Here's Diane talking about what it's like to be heading into retirement.
I just like to say that being a part of the Outreach Center has just been such a blessing for me. I'm very honored that I got to serve in that way. And I love all the people so much. I am really going to miss them, but I will be back around.
All right, thanks so much to Diane. To read all the great comments from people who know her well, be sure to check out the post on our Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram to see when stories are posted and be part of the conversation. If email is more your speed, you can send story ideas and feedback to news@clarkcountytoday.com. For all of us at Clark County Today, I'm Chris Brown. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.